the right foot of racers. All the hours of work and the hopes of those who've invested in this dream ride on its not-so-gentle touch. A determined action that sets in motion wheels that once moved the earth and wills more might from the legions of horses. Only the biggest shoes are needed to fill this order, drop-kicking 5 tons 20 feet in the air. This is Trucks and Tractor Power, featuring the best in MTRA monster truck racing. Today, it's the Summer 4-Wheel Jamboree Nationals from the Bloomsburg Fairgrounds in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. Coming into Bloomsburg, the guy that has the best foot forward appears to be Fred Schaefer in the Barefoot Dodge. Now, Fred leads the PENDA Points Championship, and save for a technicality at Lima, he would be on a 2-race win streak. And historically, Bloomsburg has always been a good venue for Barefoot, the Dodge, and Fred Schaefer. But hey, early in the season, where's the Bigfoot organization? Well, here on how the shoe fits the other foot is Army Armstrong.
Well, Gary, the foot you're speaking of has to be Eric Meager in the original Bigfoot truck. Now, this time last year, as a matter of fact, for the last couple of years, this truck has dominated the sports, but the Dodge have stepped up. They're playing hardball. The Ford camp trying to regroup and use this kid, Eric Meager, as their point man. I believe he may have gotten that monkey off his back. He took a win. He yet has to go into a final round, but in order to get to the final, you got to take it one step at a time. He's taking the first step.
Here are the top 5 qualifiers so far at Bloomsburg. And look, Fred Schaefer not in the top 5. He qualified 9th. Now, Eric Meager, as you mentioned, Army, took that win in round 1. Now, this is the win you're referring to. He closed out the round. Pam Vodders in the far lane leaves too early. Now, remember, this is round 1 competition, and Meager then would take it easy, advancing to round 2.
Pam Vodders knew she was going to have to cut the tree on the Bigfoot truck, but she knew this kid had a win in the crosshairs.
Well, a guy who did not have it so easy was Alan Pizzo. Pizzo in the Predator also had breakage problems in Lima, Ohio, and watch what happens to him in qualifying.
Pizzo laying down a good run, but watch the rear of the truck. The rear right spindle breaks once again, Gary.
Well, he got things fixed, but then in round 1, taking on Paul Schaefer in the Monster Patrol, the same thing would happen. This gets expensive and frustrating.
All the drivers are starting to notice after the finish line, the trucks were landing extremely hard. I rest my case.
Well, once again, let's check in trackside with Army Armstrong.
Al, I know you and keep working. I know you and the crew are just upset as can be over this, but it's the same thing happened yesterday in qualifying. Can you tell me what's causing it to do this?
I'm not sure, Army, right now. I think I may have one shock that lost a valving or something in the shock, and it's not releasing when it's going in the air, and the truck is bottoming out when it's landing and putting a tremendous load on the spindle and breaking it off.
Well, Tim Hall and the Executioner also had problems in qualifying, hand grenading an engine. It's been an expensive weekend so far here in Bloomsburg.
You know, people don't realize how hard you have to run these trucks. This is not for grins and giggles. They're chasing this big point money, and they're on kill.
Well, the best matchup was round 1's Dan Patrick and Sampson taking on Fred Schaefer in Barefoot. Notice the air these guys are getting.
Chevrolet and Dodge. Dodge takes this one.
Well, the big boys are playing with the expensive toys in the infield, but it's something for everybody here in Bloomsburg. Look at that, the kids in the mini Bigfoot race down the front stretch. We're coming back. Stay with us. To Bloomsburg Fairgrounds, big problems are brewing down on the track. Let's send it down there to Army Armstrong.
Gary, I am right now at the finish line. It's flat on the right lane. In the left lane where we're standing, you are actually going to negotiate about a 1.5 foot uphill incline. What that does, it makes the truck that jumps and lands hit, and then the front end has to come up to negotiate the rise we're talking about. When the front end goes up, it slams the back end down, and that puts all kind of pressure on these rear wheels, and it makes the truck's handle real spooky. So once again, the right lane, when you finish, it is smooth. The left lane, you still got another hill to climb. Gary, back to you.
So on your television, that's the far lane. We'll keep an eye on that. Round 2 lineups. Monster Patrol and Samson come back as the fast losers. Predator, who sheared that right rear off, will not make it back, so Fred Schaefer will have a bye run in round 2. Well, here's a matchup between Dan Runte and the Power Wheels against Paul Schaefer in the Monster Patrol.
Schaefer comes back into this round through the loser bracket, the quick loser bracket, and I really like that because it makes everybody really go hard through the end. But he's got the horsepower, he's got the timing and everything. He's just trying to get this chassis figured out on this Monster Patrol Chevrolet truck, Gary.
So it's Chevrolet against Ford. Now, once again, we watch that far lane when these guys land. We've documented the problem down there, and it could cause some more breakage as this competition continues.
Runte is literally wailing in the right lane. Meanwhile, Schaefer has all kind of problems in the left lane, mechanical problems, second shot in a row, but Runte is reading a riot act of these guys, Gary.
Well, obviously some kind of mechanical problems for the Monster Patrols. We take a look at the return of the Crush Cam. I like this shot coming at you and going away.
Yeah, but I'm not going to hold it next week.
Let's go trackside and visit with Dan Runte.
Well, Dan Runte, the monster truck sport's always been notorious for being rough, but it looks like you guys are just getting beat up out there, especially in the shutdown area.
Yeah, it's rough down there, Army. You're hitting that second set of cars. It's throwing you every which way. I mean, they're dropping like flies. It's hard to say what that second ramp's going to do, and it's not in any particular lane either. It's really tough. It's going to take its toll on all of us before the day's over, I'm afraid.
Well, Bloomsburg has always been a challenge, but now a new challenge with the ramps and the landing area, the shutdown area. There's his baseball cap inside the cockpit. We speak of Gary Porter in the Carolina Crusher in the Chevrolet. He will be in the next matchup. There he is from Wadesboro, North Carolina.
You know, Gary keeps that cap in there so he can get the exposure for sponsors. Hey, these guys aren't dummies. Speaking of exposure for sponsors, Viper and Dodge team up to help this kid. And Ken Deppy's one of these young stars that's going to be the future of this sport.
There's a look at Deppy from Jefferson City, Missouri, the Dodge Rampage. Now, Gary Porter has staged. It looks like Deppy's playing some games at the starting line. Now, of course, Porter has the heat up in the torque converter. When it's hot, it can rob horsepower. So some head games being played there in the staging area.
Yeah, but I tell you what, Gary Porter's no fool. He's going to play hardball. Rest my case again.
Well, obviously a problem in that far lane with the Dodge Rampage. Gary Porter a 542. And there's a look at Ken Deppy as Deppy will go to the trailer.
I'll guarantee you the next time this Chevrolet pulls up against one of those red Dodges, he will not go into the light first. He will let the other guy get hot.
Well, there is a look at the landing for Gary Porter. A rough landing, shaking that chassis, but he settles back down. He takes the victory. He'll advance, and he's in the pit area with Army Armstrong.
Well, a great hopes for the Chevrolet camp stay alive at Bloomsburg. And Gary, did you have any idea that he had any kind of problem on the starting line? Or are you aware of what's on the left or right of you?
Not really. You know, I knew he took a long time getting there, you know, staging. And, you know, I think they need to come up with a rule. And after a truck is already staged, if the other truck's messing around in the other lane, they ought to go ahead and, you know, they should have turned me loose long before they did. And, you know, I wasn't aware of what was going on. I knew he was having trouble. But after the light turned green, you know, I just went for it. And I didn't have any idea where he was at or what was happening.
Well, as round 2 continues, a very unhappy Gary Porter from the Carolina Crusher. There's a look at Eric Meager in Bigfoot, the big blue Ford out of St. Louis, Missouri.
I'll tell you about Gary Porter. He just calls it like he sees it. Here's this Meager kid I was telling you about in the opening. He has got a future in the sport. We talked about Deppy in the future. Meager's in one lane in a Ford. He goes up against this guy who's been around since dirt in the other lane.
Dan Patrick in Samson. Dan Patrick drives it, he builds it, maintains it, does it all.
Even drives a tow rig, I might add.
I think so. So it's Ford against Chevrolet here in round 2 from Bloomsburg.
Now, Dan Patrick has actually been a tremendous asset to Meager. Meager will be the first to tell you that Dan likes the sport. He helps everybody in it, but right now we're racing. Patrick get down that left lane, but not quick enough.
Yeah, but it's the second half of the run belongs to Eric Meager, a 5.03 ET.
Another win out of the right lane. Man, I tell you what, there's a black cloth hanging over that left lane right now. Patrick made it down the left lane, but I want you to notice how hard he landed. He's on the right side of your screen right now, but watch, the truck is actually trying to do two things, go down and up at the same time, and the drivers are caught in the middle.
A very hard landing for Dan Patrick in that right lane. Let's go back pit side, and here's Army.
Eric, I tell you what, a lot of guys have been on your case about getting that monkey off your back. It's off the back. You're running good. You're a good driver. You're proving it. But time in the seat really helps you, doesn't it?
Exactly. Especially with this sport, the time in the seat is very rare. The actual time in the seat is a short period of time. But I'll tell you, with each pass, I'm learning more and more, and hopefully gaining a little respect.
Tell you what, don't get too comfortable in that seat, because it looks like that you're going to be going up against the Dodge in the next round. The kid and the old man. Can you handle him?
I'm sure I can handle him. It's just a matter of going out there and doing my job and making everything go right. But with this big blue Ford here, we're making a lot of horsepower. As long as we can get it down the track, hopefully we can take the Dodge boys out today.
That'll be a good matchup. It's coming your way when we come back. Bloomsburg, where Ford trucks present the McCarthy Tire Summer Four-Wheel Jamboree. Moments ago, officials were out regrooming the track after hearing complaints from the drivers. Army has this story.
Gary, what they're talking about real quick, and you can see them working on the far side of the ramp, the lighter part here went down at an angle. Okay, that was the lighter part, what they've been running on. What they wanted to have added was more of a run to it, because what was happening, the trucks were getting into kind of like a swoopy situation or a half pike for a roller skater. When they hit the ramp, it just skied the vehicle straight up in the air. Then the problems really happened because the drivers were landing so hard. You got to remember, these trucks for the last 5 or 6 weeks have been running 490s, 470s, 460s. As a matter of fact, they broke the 4-second record right here last year. This year, nobody wants to attack that second jump. They're only running in the low 5s.
And there is a look at Dan Runte in the Power Wheels Bigfoot as he begins to stage. As we take a look at the pairings now for the semifinals, the Carolina Crusher in there along with Barefoot against the Bigfoot Ford.
I'm anxious to see now, since they've regroomed these tracks, they've requested the drivers. We're right at that 4-second barrier. Let's see if anybody's going to bump into the 4-second barrier. If that's the case, then the drivers were indeed right. They needed to change those ramps.
Well, there is Gary Porter in the cockpit of the Chevrolet, the Carolina Crusher. There is the Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot with Dan Runte.
Believe it or not, that monster truck has a set of whaled wheels on it.
Famous racing family out of the Kansas City, Missouri area.
Now they're in the monster truck.
And there is a look at the Carolina Crusher in the foot box in there in the cockpit.
Gary runs a transmission brake. Somebody using drag racing to get him off the line quick. He left good with the Ford.
But, oh, look at that landing, Dan Runte.
Runty's coming across.
And a good reflex on the part of Gary Porter as he climbed on the binders. They popped the left rear off that rim. So the Power Wheels Bigfoot taking the victory, but watch the landing and watch how close they get in the shutdown area.
The rules say after the finish line, if one driver crosses over in the other driver's lane and contact is made, the driver that crossed over will be disqualified. Gary Porter did not make contact. Thus, the Ford's going into the next round, Gary.
Well, Gary Porter, of course, climbed on the binders to give Dan Runte some room to cross his nose because some damage could have been incurred. Let's go back to the pits. Army?
Dan, they fixed the ramps. You go under 5 seconds, so it looks like that was a good move. But what happened here?
It come down crossed up, Army. It just later. This is the problem we were having last year. The Ford with BDS behind us and this new MSD ignition that we're checking out. We're getting a lot of power. The truck leaves the ramp. It's torqued up. When it gets torqued up in the air, it crosses up in the air. It's something you have to deal with when the truck comes down. And it just, we're making a lot of power and we're putting it to the ground, but as soon as that truck leaves the ramp, it's got to unload somewhere.
So the Bigfoot team will have a job ahead in changing the tire. Runte's teammate will be up. Look at that. You NASCAR guys can make a pit stop in 17, 18 seconds. They have to roll this 700-pound tire from the paddock area back to the pit area to make the change. As we look now at Eric Meager in the Bigfoot Ford. He'll be staging against Fred Schaefer, who had a bye run in the semis. And of course, with the concern today over the track and track conditions, earlier Army talked to Fred about the rough day on the ramp.
We're hitting the cars now between 50 and 60 miles an hour. You know, these trucks get faster and faster every year, so that ramp needs to come down just a little bit.
Yeah, and such a minute change can make for a much safer playing field.
Very first run after they changed the ramp went under 4 seconds, under 5 seconds. So it was a move in the right direction. Like you said, the trucks are getting faster, the ramps are staying the same. Gary, they both look like precision flying teams. One yaw to the left, one yaw to the right.
Photo finish, but they're going to give it to Bigfoot. 5.04 over the Barefoot Dodge. Look again at how close it is.
When I was talking about yawing, I mean they lean. Now watch the Dodge. He'll lean to the left, and the Ford will lean to the right. Right now, they're bailing out in opposite directions.
What a neat run. The victory goes to Eric Meager.
Well, Eric, we were talking earlier about taking over the seat of this truck, not making it to the final. We can throw all that out. You are going into the final against another teammate here, so I know there's some kind of pressure, but then again, you know it's going to be just a good, clean race out there between you and Dan.
Well, that's right. You got two choice Ford vehicles here, and just the great sponsorship we have behind us and the development through Bob Chandler's Bigfoot organization. I mean, it's definitely showing its power here, and I've got my work cut out for me, but we were pretty optimistic about it.
Another look from the crush cam as we're getting set for the finals, Ford against Ford, when we come back to Bloomsburg. The four-wheel jamborees are part of the Shine competition. Contact the Special Events Promotion Company to find out when a jamboree will be in your area. Well, some of the fine-looking iron in the Show and Shine area coming in from all over the country. And earlier, Army caught up with a proud owner of an exceptional-looking piece of equipment.
Bob Fry out of Danville, Pennsylvania, showed up at Bloomsburg with one of the nicest pieces on the lot. Bob, tell me about this Ford.
Well, Army, it features a 460 cubic inch engine, a hand-built stainless steel frame that me and my dad did from scratch. The transmission and all that stuff's all hand polished. Just about everything on the truck we built ourselves. We bought the truck out of the junkyard for $1,000. We got about $25,000 into it. 7 years later, this is what you got.
From Show and Shine to crash and burn, why let a truck rust in the field when you can go out in a blaze of glory? The tough truck competition, the guy who had the fans on their feet here last year, Jan Kleckner. Just a taste of what Mr. Kleckner has in store coming up. You'll have to watch our next show from here in Bloomsburg. Well, we are set now for the finals, from one blue truck to another blue truck, Bigfoot, Eric Meager, and he will stage alongside Dan Runte. Here's Eric.
Well, when you started in the sport, you were kind of an understudy to the guy you're going to be running in the other lane today. Does that bother you at all, or is it just a throw-down run?
Actually, no. Me and Dan, we have a pretty good friendship among us and as fellow co-workers, but when it goes to the line in competition, that all goes out the window. So it's going to be a good heads-up race here, and I'd like nothing better than to take a win, but if I had to take it from somebody, I'd rather choose somebody other than Dan, but I'm definitely going to be giving it all it's got.
As competitors, these guys probably get along better than the Bodine brothers in NASCAR racing.
Well, you mentioned both trucks were blue. I'm going to help you out. This is going to be a black and blue Ford final here.
Blue of Kleckner. That's what I was talking about.
And the winner is going to be featured in the Keystone Motor Racing News, a monthly publication that comes out of the Pennsylvania state. It carries all types of motorsports. We're glad to have them in the monster truck into this thing, and they're excited about covering this event. But right now, it's a blue oval bunch and all Ford finals. Meager takes his first win, Gary.
Well, remember, Dan Runte and crew had to change that tire on that Power Wheels, Bigfoot. There is the new wheel, the rim, and the tire right there.
But also remember, Meager takes the win out of the quote-unquote bad lane. So it was a level playing field. That was just a good head-to-head race.
And there is the margin of victory right there. Eric Meager, as you said, he was the understudy of Dan Runte, but the student knocks out the professor. Here's the winner.
Well, they say you're going to remember your first one. This is the one you're going to remember. After a day of controversy, it seems like the cool heads prevailed. You just drove a good race. Just a easy-going, hard race.
Yeah, that's what we were looking at. We were looking for consistency. We knew that was going to be a key here today. As you can see, the trucks and the track conditions that we went through all day to get here. Consistency got us to the final round. We would have liked that lane choice there. We weren't really happy with the left lane, but we just ran our race, and I believe we broke the fours, and I believe Bigfoot won on the day in Bigfoot here in Bloomsburg.
I believe you're right. I want you to look at the camera. Hold up that number one finger, because you are number one.
The first one for me, not the last.
And a big smile from your winner, Eric Meager. There's the congratulations from his teammates. And a good day for the Bigfoot organization here in Bloomsburg. Fred Schaefer continues to lead the PENDA point standings over Dan Runtig, Gary Porter. Eric Meager is now 4th, and Ken Duffy rounding out the top 5. And as the congratulations continue, talk about parity in the top 5 in points. 2 Dodges, 2 Fords, and a Chevrolet. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's monster truck racing here from Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power. Now here's news of an exciting video release from Diamond P Sports.
What could follow the 3 volumes of Diamond P's and They Walked Away series? A 4th, and They Walked Away 4, like its predecessors, captures the most perilous moments in recent motorsports history. Unmerciful tumbles, unbelievable flips, falls, and fires, and in every harrowing incident, the driver beats the odds. Once again, man and machine test their mettle through mayhem in over a dozen motorsports disciplines. You can't find this video in stores. You can't rent it. And anyone who has it won't let you beg, borrow, or steal it. Then how do you get your own copy of And They Walked Away 4? Call 1-800-652-8686 or send $24.95 plus $4 shipping and handling to the address on your screen. 1-800-652-8686 or charge it on your Visa, MasterCard, or Discover card. Call 1-800-652-8686. 1-800-652-8686 or charge it on your Visa, MasterCard, or Discover card.